Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to part 2 of my introductory lecture for INFOST 691 in the spring of 2018. Now, right now we're about to start week 2 of our schedule, and I've got the schedule up in the monitor. I can only find my cursor. There we are. So in week 1, here's what we've already done. Okay. We have done a lot of introducing ourselves online, computing setup. Okay. I put out an early draft of the course syllabus and a brief introduction video, which is really part 1, that this is part 2 of. Okay? And I was a little delayed in getting things up. I apologize for that again, but I'm trying my best. So let's go on to week 2, where we are presently, and we'll take a look at where we are. Okay? Okay, in week 2, we're going to start coding, okay? And I mentioned this in my earlier video, and I think I also mentioned it during online office hours. We're going to begin by doing a tutorial. That's a really popular one to do. There's a group of programming women who are international in scope, and they're doing something really fun. They call themselves the Django Girls, and they're doing workshops around the world to introduce women to programming with Django. And they have a really popular tutorial that they use in their workshops, and it's very popular for people to follow it from home as well. And that Django Girls tutorial is what we're going to be doing in week 2. Okay, so let's walk through the rest of the schedule. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the final version of the syllabus. Hasn't changed very much at all, other than we pulled the schedule out of it and put it into this application that you're seeing. Okay. For the Django Girls tutorial, I am going to record an introduction video. I say that's going to be due tomorrow. We might see that today. We'll see how things are going. It's already 2:53 in the afternoon here in the Chicago area. And there'll be a grading rubric for it as well. Okay? So, what are we going to do in week 3? Well, I've hinted on this already, but we're going to do another part of the Django Girls work. They put together some extensions to the tutorial that they do on site. And this, as I understand it, everybody does from home. Okay? And it's officially called the Django Girls tutorial extensions, but I left the tutorial word out of it so it's easier to differentiate the work we're doing in week 2 from the work we're doing in week 3. And we're going to do that. And we're going to be, when we get done, we're going to just have a much more robust application than we had at the end of the tutorial in week 2. Okay? And we've got a pretty cool application there. Does it have everything you'd want in a Django application? Well, no. We're going to have a 16-week course here, so you can't teach all of that in 2 Django Girls tutorials. But it has a whole lot of it. And I'm hoping that you'll have as much fun doing these tutorials in week 2 and 3 as I did when I did them. I really enjoyed them. They're some substantial work, so you have to remember to dedicate some time, but they're very rewarding. So where do we go from there? Well, from there, we're going to begin the Pinkham Django Unleashed book. Okay, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to be using the Pinkham book. Okay, the Pinkham book is one big tutorial in which we build a site that's not terribly different than the Django Girls site. It's bigger. Okay, so whereas the underlying model for the Django Girls site has 2 or 3 entities or tables, the Django Unleashed site has probably a little bit more than twice that number. So probably the difference between 3 and 7 and 3 and 8 or something like that. And the Django Unleashed book, it has a lot of time to teach you a lot more features, and it really tries to put things into the perspective of understanding the Python. Okay, in a quick tutorial, in the Django Girls tutorials, they're telling you that this is Python, and they're explaining a bit here and there, but there's a lot of magic. The goal of the Pinkham book is to really debunk the magic, right? Just wring the magic right on out of Django, so that it looks like Python when you're done. Okay. Now, for people who are more junior in Python, that's probably too tall of a goal, too tall of an order, right? For people who are already intermediate Python developers, you should be able to understand not every little bit of this, but a lot of it. I mean, it should look like Python, and you should have a fair idea of what Python features they're using under the covers in Django. We are not going to type in every line of code from the Pinkham book. Instead, there are files that we can copy, right? And so we're going to type in a few to get the hang of it, and we're going to copy a lot. Okay, we're going to learn how to follow along in the Git repository that comes with the book, and we're going to walk our way through. As I want you to read the chapters, I want you to walk your way through how the things are built and work, and to be able to test and to demonstrate that we have a workable application. Okay, so with respect to the Unleashed book, we're going to put our focus on understanding what he's teaching, okay, and demonstrating that it actually works without having to type every line of code. The third little system that we're going to build is what we're going to build in the rest of the coding assignments that come after we do the tutorials. Okay, and where are they? Well, the first one is going to be in week 4, and it's going to be the one where we do the model for that system. This is a little system that I put together to track students who's in which of my classes, classes are at which university. For those who attend classes at the university where we take attendance, who attended which class meeting, who did what kind of participation, These are things that I've been doing on paper for a long time, and I've been developing a little application for it in Django, and I'm going to show you how to build about half the parts, and you're going to build the other half. Okay, so that's going to be the typing it in hands-on stuff. Okay, so these coding assignments are going to be part of, they're going to follow along the knowledge that we developed in the Pinkham book. We certainly can look to the code from the Pinkham book as inspiration. I mean, that's what I've done as I built as I build along with this app. But this is the one that we're going to build. Okay, so very hands-on, more typing, probably not so big. The size of this thing is probably not so big as the tutorial that's throughout the Pinkham book. The application is maybe in size in between the Django Girls application and the Pinkham application, which is a blog with commenting features for little companies that are startups. Okay? Now, there's one more system that you're going to do, and that's the one you do for your final project. Okay? What are you going to use for inspiration for it? Well, I would say you can certainly use the student information application, which we're going to build for me as inspiration. Or you could use either the Django Girls tutorial as inspiration, or the application from the Pinkham book. They don't all differ in size that much. So that's about the size and the scope of what we're going to be looking for in your final project. My application is more business-oriented record keeping. The Django Girls application and the Pinkham application are more Web 2.0 blogging, social media, and commenting applications. And you should follow your interests, right? So that's what's going on. So what are we going to do? Well, starting in week 4, we're going to read and review a bunch of chapters in the Pinkham book. Week 4, we're doing chapters 1, 2, and 3. That should get us to the place where we know how to build a model. Okay, and then we're going to build the model for our practice project, which is the student information system. Okay, then in week 5, we're going to learn how to do templates. There's a really nice templating system in Django, and we're going to add the templates to our student information application. Okay, so that's the coding assignment there is called template. Okay, more information to come. In week 3, having learned about working with, having learned about views and URL configurations, and having learned about how to integrate models, views, templates, and URL configurations to create an integrated model view controller oriented application, we're going to put together the first real full-blown MVC, model view controller, features into the student information system. That's in week 6. Okay, in week 7, we're going to learn about forms. Okay. So we're going to cover the Pinkham chapters 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to add forms to the student information application. Okay. And that brings us to week 8. In week 8, we're going to cover chapter 10 in the Pinkham book, where we're going to learn about migrations. And then we're going to do some migration-oriented stuff with our student information system. Okay. In week 9, we will have a well-earned week off due to spring break. In week 10, we're going to come back and cover 3 chapters from the Pinkham book that are kind of icing on the cake, but they're not going to correspond to a code deliverable in the student information application. So there's a week off in the student information application in week 10. In week 11, we're going to learn about pagination, Django flat pages, and the finer points of serving static content with Django. And we're going to put pagination and more sophisticated static files features into our student information application. Okay. In week 12, we're going to start learning about authentication and permissions. We're going to cover chapters 19 and 20 of the Pinkham book. In week 13, we're going to learn some of the finer points about authentication and authorization. So we're going to cover chapters 21 and 22 of the Pinkham book. And then we're going to put the finer authentication related features into our student information system. And the very last unit that we're going to do for the student information system and in the Pinkham book is in week 14, we're going to learn about the admin library, which is in chapter 23 of Pinkham. And then we're going to add some further admin-oriented razzle-dazzle to our student information system. And that will be the end of the student information system. We'll have that fully built at that time. Okay? So, what happens in week number 15? Well, in week number 15, it depends on whether you're an undergraduate or a graduate. If you're a graduate, you've got a paper due. You have this framework evaluation paper. Okay, and this is a paper on identifying another web application framework that you are interested in as an alternative to Django, and evaluating it both in terms of a set of overall needs and in a contrast to what we've learned about Django. Okay? If you are an undergraduate, well, you're working on your final project. We have no new additional content in week 15. And then in week 16, everybody's finishing up their final project. So the final project is due on Friday, May 11th, at the very end of the day. Okay? So again, what kinds of applications are you going to work on? Well, you're going to work on the blog application in the Django Girls tutorials. Then you're going to review and kind of put through its paces, but not actually code by hand, the blogish application. It's in Django Unleashed. The third thing you're going to do is that you're going to build, by typing in and following the leader, a student information application where I'm going to take the lead and you'll follow me on some, and then you'll do the rest on your own. And then finally, the fourth one is your application. Okay? And I'm assuming that you'll probably start your application by the middle of the course, right? You'll be kind of following behind where we are with the student information application. And you'll be refining it such that when you get the final 2 weeks to finish it up, you should be able to really polish it up and have it in good shape. And that's it. Week number 17 is just an exam week, and we will already be done. Okay, so that's the schedule. That's the 4 different applications that you'll be touching over the duration of the course. I'd just like to go back and spend a little bit of time going through the syllabus. Probably a couple of things in there we haven't talked about. Okay. So let's make this a little bit bigger. That looks good. So let's see. The title of the course, Advanced Web Development Using Application Frameworks. You probably have seen that and understand it well. This is being taught under course number INFOST 691, which is a general topics number, so there are more than one course that are INFOST 691. So you have to be able to refer to both the number and the name to distinguish it from other offerings that are different. It's online course. Kevin Trainer, I'm the instructor. I have an office on the 3rd floor at SOAS. The contacting the instructor section is a new thing I'm doing in the current semester that's, I can already say, has been working very well for me, and I think for students as well. Instead of trying to contact me by regular email when you have a question or a request, what I'm having you do is to go to a portal that I set up for our course. I set one up for each of my courses. That is it is implemented with Jira Service Desk. And when you click on the link that I gave you here, you will come to the portal. Now, if you've never been there before and you don't have a login, you'll get into a place where you'll go to a page where either you log in or you register for a login. And the registration is pretty typical these days. You give it your information, it sends you a confirming email, you confirm the email, and then you're able to log in. When you get to the portal for the course, I put together a bunch of request types that cover most of the use cases that that I can think of where people send me emails. Permission to register, a question about the course, a problem with the infrastructure like our D2L site or our weekly schedule, something being unavailable or broken. Course related IT help request. A general IT help request should go to the SOAS tech folks, but there's quite a bit of stuff that is related to only what we're doing. Perhaps you need to meet. Perhaps you think that you're entitled to an extension of a deadline. Perhaps you need me to take a look at an assignment that's already been graded, and you want to request that I regrade it, or perhaps you've got some other kind of issue. So use this, what happens, let's click on other issue. You go to other issue, you put in a summary, you put in the description, and you send it off. And then that starts a conversation in which we're able to help you without losing your issue. And that visibility in the workflow has really started to pay off for me, and I'd like to think for the students as well. Okay? If you can't get to the portal, each of the courses has its own dedicated email address, so that's the address you could send it to. I also have my telephone here. If you need an answer to something that probably, or you have a request, that probably isn't the most effective way to do it, but if we're not getting the rest of the ways done, well, we're going to have to take it from there. Every time I turn the sound on my phone, it punishes me for doing that. Sorry about that, guys. Online office hours lab session. Okay, there's a lot of hands-on here. There'll be a lot of getting stuck. We have a time on Thursday night from 7:30 to 8:30 that we can all get online and get unstuck and talk about ideas for projects and all that kind of stuff. If we need some further time to do it, well, we'll make some further time. Okay, but this should be a good, healthy start. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you there. There's a link here to join the GoToMeeting session. The description of the course already was sufficient to get you to take it, so I'm not going to go through that further. The course outcomes, I really want you to come out of this with two things. One is I want you to be very competent at using a particular framework in order to build a real robust industrial strength application, namely Django. Okay? And I want you to be knowledgeable about why that's a good thing, and I want you to be able to do it. Okay? If you're a graduate student, I'd like you to also to be able to compare Django to some alternative framework, and that's what we have the paper for. I think you've already seen the technology requirements. I've talked through them when I was doing the first course introduction last week. We'll have some other things that come up. We'll have some other tools that I suggest, and I will provide information about those as we get to them. There's a lot of reading to be done, okay? The Pinkham book is 806 pages long. We're going to be using a lot of it. We're not doing all of it. But, and of course, a lot of that is code examples, okay? So I'm going to want you to read the Pinkham book. I'm going to want you to actually run the code from the Pinkham book. So I'm not going to ask you to type it in. although typing in some parts might help. Okay. The videos, I'm going to do a number of videos like this and tutorials. A lot of the tutorials I'm going to do are going to be related to the student information system. I'm going to show what I built and how I built it, and then I'm going to ask you to build a parallel part on your own. And you'll have the tutorial to look to as a guide to how to do what you have to do, and also the code from the Pinkham book, right? The coding assignments are going to be really important things. The first two are the tutorials. The first two are the tutorials from the Django Girls, okay? And then after that, I've already shown you, we have a group of, I think it's 8, maybe something like that, 8 or 9, different coding assignments that are going to be associated with that student information system, okay? See where we are. Pretty typical of the courses that I have. All these coding assignments are going to come with a deal that allows you to get an 85 on your assignment for 1, submitting it on time, 2, following the directions about how to submit it on time and submitting the proper parts, and 3, making a good faith effort on all parts of the assignment. If you do that, you'll get at least an 85. And what I really want to promote here is that I really want to review how we all did the week after in the online office hours. Look at a couple of different solutions that people did and go through them. Having really tried it and being ready to review it the next week, that's where the learning actually goes on. So I reward that. If you don't get all those requirements met, you can't score over 84. Okay? So I know what I would do. Participation, let's see. I always give participation points. I'm expecting you to contribute 3 posts, significant ones, to forums. The first one is the Introduce Yourself forum. We already have that up. The second one's going to be the Final Project forum. This is going to be a way for us to kind of share ideas about projects and get feedback from each other. Not just feedback from me, but feedback from the other students in the class. You'll notice that I don't have a proposal for the final project. There isn't the proposal in the final project. So you have to come to understand what we're looking for through your interaction with me and your fellow students over, well, the first half of the course, okay? So the 2 posts of the final project forum will be part of that. Apart from that, when you post in forums, you'll get participation points. If you come to online office hours, you'll get participation points if you participate. Some people will say, well, I can't come to online office hours because, well, you know, with some people, they're working 3 jobs. I mean, we have a really industrious student body. My reaction to this is, well, online office hours are optional, but they're a way to participate. Certainly the forums are the other way to participate. So if you can't come to online office hours, I do record them so you can play them. Okay, so you have that. And if you need to get points on the board participation-wise, hop into the forum. Okay. So a post, those 3 big posts are going to earn 3 points each. A post to the discussion forum is going to earn 1 point. Making a comment during online office hours is going to earn a point. And presenting your solution at online office hours is going to be worth 5 points. It's a pretty common formula that I've used. I've talked a lot about the final project. There'll be more coming. There'll be specific instructions for the final project. There'll be a grading rubric for the final project. But I think you've got a good idea for now. And the framework evaluation paper, again, I've talked about that in general terms, and more detailed instructions in a grading rubric are coming for that. Grading-wise, because this is one of those hybrid classes where we have both undergraduates and graduates, there are 2 formulas for the weighting of the different parts of the course. And this means that no matter what I do, if you look at the grade book in D2L, for some of you it's not going to be accurate. I don't know exactly what I do. I may just disable some of the calculations in it if I can. But if you are a graduate student, which I think are most of the people in the class this semester, the coding assignments are going to be a quarter of the grade, 25%. The paper is going to be 33%. The final project's going to be 32%. And your participation is going to be 10%. If you're an undergraduate, your coding assignments are going to be 40%. You don't have the framework evaluation paper. Your final project's going to be 50%, and the participation will be the same at 10%. Okay. I have a scale here for the translation of number grades to letter grades. This is pretty standard stuff. I inherited this from my colleagues, and I think most of us are on this scale. And then at the very end, we've got a bunch of boilerplate stuff that you might be inclined to dismiss because it's pretty much the same on all the syllabi. But I just want to point out it's really important stuff. Okay, so things like what to do if you're a student with a disability or some different or special abilities, religious observances, military duty, incompletes. This is a university where it's very hard to get an incomplete as a grade, so be aware of the requirements there. And discriminatory conduct. We want this to be a safe learning environment, and we're very serious about that. Academic misconduct, okay? Generally speaking, this is a big issue, so pay attention to that. And then if you have complaints or you need to appeal a grade, there are procedures for that. So I'm going to say these are really important things. If you've already read them, well, you've already read them. But if you need some help with them, I'm here. So open a ticket or come find me. I just want to get back to this open a ticket thing. Because there's a comment that I've made to the rest of the classes I think I forgot to make. I love to talk to students, okay? And I'd like to see you guys. So having this help desk that I put together isn't a way of saying that I don't want to see you and I don't want to hear from you. In fact, I do. What I'd like to do when I see you and I hear from you is not have to be worried that you're going to ask me for something and I'm going to forget to follow up on it. So feel free to see me and talk to me, because that's a part of the university experience, I think, that's important to both of us. But if you have a requirement that needs to be followed up on, and we're talking face to face, I'm going to ask you to go and open a ticket on it so it won't get forgotten. Okay? All right, that's it. This is going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be even more fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.